Hello, welcome. My name is Tracy. I'm an independent Stampin' demonstrator here in Central Victoria, Australia. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm taking part in a blog hop with Kylie Bertucci's demonstrator training group, and I'm actually going to be making this box for the blog hop. Now it opens up at the top, and this gorgeous ribbon, the gold trim metallic ribbon, and it opens up, and then inside I've got some gumballs. So really cute little box. And I'm using the new stamp set. It is a host stamp set in the new annual catalogue, and I absolutely love it because there's a couple of stamps in this set that they're really awesome stamps to do some background stamping. So I'm going to bring that stamp set in. It's called Believe You Can, and we're using this stamp right here, but I have done other cards using some of these other pieces, especially this one here. This one is one of my favorites to use. We are also using the stitched nested label dies, and these dies are part of a bundle with the Freezer Bird stamp set, and these are absolutely awesome. Once again, the stitches are on both sides of the cutting piece, so you can see it here on the inside, but it's also on the negative image on the other side as well. So really great, you can use the negative piece as well. We're colouring all this image in with the Stampin' blends, and I have some really amazing colours to do the colouring. We have Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green, Rich Razzleberry, Lovely Lipstick, and not Coastal Cabana. This one's Calypso Coral. So really fun, bright colours. I love bright. Like I said before, we've got the gold metallic edge ribbon, and I'm also putting rhinestones on this box as well, just to highlight those gorgeous little flowers that we're going to colour in. So let's get started. I have the boxes actually made with Calypso Coral, and we're using a piece of Whisper White and a piece of Daffodil Delight. Now all the measurements and supplies can be found over my blog. There is a link to that blog post in the description of this video, and there's also a link to my online store if you live in Australia and would like to purchase some Stampin' Up supplies. I would love it to be your demonstrator, and you can do that by popping in my host code for this month. So quickly, this piece of Calypso Coral measures 7.5 by 6 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to bring in my Stampin' trimmer because that's how I'm going to score this box, this card for this box. Now I'm going to work on, this is the 6 5/8 inch side, so I'm going to score that at 2 inches. I'm just going to bring that over to 2 inches. And I'm also going to score at 4 3/4. Okay. Now turning it over to the 7.5 inch side, we're going to score at the 3/4. So I'm going to score it on the right hand side first, because it's just easier to score 3/4 on this side. And then I'm going to actually turn it around so the 3/4 is now on my left. And then the next score line is 3 inches. So 3/4 of an inch, 3 inches, 5 1/4 inch, and we're going to go back and mark the top and bottom at 4 1/8 inch. So I'm just going to, at the top and at the bottom, and I'm just going to show you those marks there. So we have one here and one down the very bottom here. Hopefully you can see that. We're going to need that. We're also going to score, so it's placing a score point in the middle of these two score lines, and we also need to put another one in the middle of this last column as well. And for that one, we're going to put it at 6 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so just making that little bit of a mark there on top and bottom. And that's how we have our piece. So I can get rid of this for a minute. We are going to be using the stylus. So I have this stylus pen, and I'm also using a ruler. So what we need to do, let me bring it up a little bit closer so you can see. These little marks that we've made, we're going to create a line using our ruler and our stylus from this mark down to this score line, and also onto this one, and also for this one here. So we're creating little triangles, and we're doing that for both the top and the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I loved this little box to put some little gumballs in, and I will be using it as my customer thank you gift this month. So anyone that places an order through me will have one of these coming out in the mail, which is a great little surprise and a little thank you. And I like how nice and bright it is. Okay, so this is the last one for this side, sorry. And I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to do the same thing for this side as well. So don't forget, you can pop over to my blog and then go ahead and go along on this blog hop. There'll be heaps and heaps of ideas there for inspiration, and there's some very, very clever, well, everyone on there is very clever, because I think all demonstrators are very clever with crafting. So go and check that out. Okay, so we have our pieces that have been scored, and that's probably a little hard to see on this, but what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring in my large scissors, and I'm just going to score first. So just bringing in my bone folder, I'm going to score all these score lines, not so much our diagonals, but just our score lines. And then we're going to cut up all our marks. So on one edge there is a small strip here, and that's going to be our little flap. And what we're going to do is I'm going to, we don't need these ones on the end, and you can check my blog, I'll have a template there for you to follow. So I'm just going to snip up so I have a bit of an angle on that piece, and then I'm going to take off these edges, these two edges on both sides, completely off. And that gives us that gorgeous little tab there. Now for these two, what we're going to do is, and these are the ones that don't have the score lines that we have already scored. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just snip up to that score line, and I'm just going to take half of it off, or probably a little bit more than half, because this is also going to be a tab. So let's notch in on both sides of those as well, and that gives us a nice little tab. This is our closing, the box closure. So let's all the way up to that score line. I'm going to take half of it off, and then we're just going to snip up so we have notches on either side. And I still think that's a little bit too long, so I'm just going to take that a little bit more off. We don't need it to be very big there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off all these little rectangles, and you can see this one here in the middle here. We're going to chop that completely off. So let me just show you what I mean. So we're going to go from that mark that we made to that score line. Same on this side. Hopefully this is making sense. Like I said, the template will show you a little bit better. Then this is our score line here. I'm going to just forget about that one. I'm going to move back to the one where we have the mark made, and I'm just going to cut straight up to that mark, to that score line. So we're taking off that huge triangle there. Okay, so the last little triangle here, and that's what we're left off on that side. So let's do the same for this side as well. So from our mark right up, so again from this side, the mark to the score line, leaving that score line, and back to the next mark, to the score line. So we're taking off that full big triangle, and then our last mark to the score line. I'm sure there's probably a better way I could talk you through that, but that's okay. That is what we're left with. So we have 2 triangles with our boxes, and then this is our closure right here. So effectively, to put it together, we're going to glue these together. So this last 2 tabs will be glued to this piece, and then it's going to close in on itself. And what I need to do is I'm just going to take a little bit more off. There's not enough off on this yet. So let's make a bit more of a incline, and I'm going to take a little bit more off. We only need, so we've probably taken probably 2/3 of that off. I'm going to just make a bit more of a notch in. Much better. Okay. So our end bit's going to go over the top, and we're going to glue that down. Our edges are going to go inside, and this is going to sit on the outside. Beautiful. So let's pop some mono glue on our 2 edges here. And I'm just going to line these up and glue down together. Same for the other side. And this will be able to go straight in, closing it up. And that's going to sit over the top. You can put it inside if you want. I found my first one, it went in really well. The second one, not so well. It sort of sat out a little bit. So by putting it over the top and popping the stamped image over the top, it really worked quite well. Okay, so there's our little box already and made. I'm going to pop that to the side. I'm going to bring in that piece of Whisper White cardstock and the Daffodil Delight, and we're going to bring that stamp in, and we're using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Because we're using our stamping blends, we have to use the Memento. So let's ink up this stamp. It might be easier to do it this way, I think. And I'm also going to bring in my matte, because this is photopolymer. We need a little bit of extra cushioning. So I'm going to stamp this down in the middle of that piece. Nice big image. And I'm also going to bring in the Daffodil Delight, inking it up all over again. But what I mainly need is that Benna ribbon. Let me just show you. So we need the Benna ribbon, because that's where we're going to cut out. We're cutting that out with the Daffodil Delight and popping it on over the top. There's our box there. Not the best way to show it, but that's okay. There we are. So I'm also going to bring in that sentiment thank you. Making sure it's up the right way. That is the correct way. We want the larger flowers at the top. So I'm going to stamp that ink, that thank you up. And because it's photopolymer, it's really easy to line up. So the banner's going to be fussy cut, but what we're going to do is we're going to bring in this piece, and I'm going to quickly colour it in. So I want to show you how that's coloured in. I'm going to actually fast forward my colouring, but you can see that each of those flowers and leaves are coloured in, and the way I do that is I go in with my dark marker first, create my shadows, and then I go over it with the light combo and just blend it all in a little bit together. You can see I've used the two different light and dark in this one, but I've used the dark over the top just to highlight that inner center. So let's do that, and you can watch that in fast play. Okay, so that's all coloured. I'm going to bring in my Daffodil Delight piece and my paper snips, and I'm just going to cut round that banner. Now, one thing I wanted to say is, before I said when I'm colouring in with the Stampin' blends, I go in with the dark first, then blend in with the light, and that's how I usually do it. With this one, I actually done the opposite, and the reason I've done the opposite, I've gone in with the light, coloured it in, and then highlighted it with the dark. I didn't want to do too much blending, I was more colouring, but I just wanted that distinctive difference in colours there. So you can please yourself how you want to colour that in, but I thought by doing that it actually looked really nice, so yeah. But I just thought I'd better let you know so you don't think that I was leading you astray before. And I'm going to cut round delicately around these flowers because I don't want to stop being able to see them coloured underneath. So you've just got to be really careful as you're fussy cutting. I know not everyone likes to fussy cut. Let's get rid of that. I will admit I'm not a huge fan. I do like the framelets. If the sets come in framelets, it just makes it easier for me, but you know, other people find it really therapeutic to colour in and to fussy cut. Going to the last stretch, let's get rid of that. We have another little bit of a flower here, so I'm just going to go around that flower. And that's that little banner cut out. Now before we go popping that down, we're going to bring the big shot in and we're going to use these nested framelets, and I'm using the third largest, so it's the second one here on this bigger side. Let's get the big shot. And I'm just going to lay that cardstock down with that framelit over the top, and it fits perfectly as long as it doesn't move. Cutting plate over the top, pushing that through. And these cut out, like I said, the other image has the cutout, so you could use that piece on a card, but we also have the stitched on this one as well. So I'm going to bring some dimensionals in. I'm going to pop this piece up. And I think 3 should do. I usually go over the top with dimensionals. I think 3 should be fine. It's easy to line that up because we've cut around for that piece. And the next thing, I'm just going to bring in some rhinestones and pick a few of these up and put in the flowers. So I'm going to grab a big one for that big Bermuda Bay flower. Now I didn't say Bermuda Bay before, I forgot to bring that out, so I used Bermuda Bay as well. And then I'm going to use these smaller ones, one for the Daffodil Delight, Rich Razzleberry, Calypso Coral, and this just gives it a little bit of extra interest, and the Daffodil Delight one down below, I'll put one on there as well. Very, very cute. So bringing that box back in, I'm also going to bring my ribbon in, just work out how much I'm going to need. So this flap is going to go at the front. So that's about a good, I'll measure that quickly for you just so you know, 13 inches. Okay. I'm also going to bring in some tear and tape because I want to stick that ribbon down with a bit of tear and tape. So I'm just going to have a couple of little lengths, and I need one underneath in the middle and also one at the back. I'll take the backings off that. Now, I think this host set is going to be a popular one. I've seen a lot of things made with it already, and I was drawn to it straight away. I will say Sarah, our Stampin' Up CEO, used it at On Stage in Auckland, and I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous. Okay, so we have that all set up, so it's not going to move away from there. It's glued down on the back and on the bottom. Then I'm going to bring in some dimensionals because I want to pop some dimensionals here, but I don't want it to go on our flap, our lid. So let's bring in dimensionals again. And I don't think I said that before. This piece is actually thick Whisper White because we are colouring on it, and because it's sort of sticking over the edges. You really want that thicker cardstock. Just makes it easier. And then I'm just going to line. You almost need a few different hands. Pop that over to the back like that. And then I want to do is just line this up so it's even all the way around. That looks good. Push down. And there we have it. So opening that flap up. Gonna pop some gumballs in. I have 3 here. They fit quite well. Okay, and I'm just going to tie a nice little bow at the top here, or actually it'll be just a knot, and a nice loose one so it's easy to undo. I'm going to tidy these ribbons up. And this is the little box I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. I would love it if you left me a comment. And if you hadn't hit subscribe yet, please do. Don't forget, this is part of a blog hop, so go over to my blog and check out the blog hop. There is heaps and heaps of inspiration there for you. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.